You might not realize it, but this is the 5th NFL Super Wildcard weekend we have to kick off the playoffs starting this Saturday. Back in 2020, the NFL owners used COVID to sneak in an additional regular season game and an additional playoff seed, which has been great so far. And since adding 8 teams to the college football playoff has resulted in heartbreak for my Ducks since they rigged the shit for non-conference champions, I just need a week off from talking about the CFP. So let's look at 5 stats from the 5 years of the NFL Super Wildcard, and let's see how it's affected both the regular season as well as the postseason. Number 1. Only 3 teams have not made the playoffs in the Super Wildcard era. Adding an additional playoff team from each conference means that 14 out of 32 teams make the playoffs each season. So if your team has not made it in the 5 years of the Super Wildcard, you really suck. The first and most surprising of the bunch is Atlanta. They last made the playoffs back in 2017 when Matt Ryan led them to the divisional round against Philly, where they lost to Big Dick Nick Foles and the eventual Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. The closest they've got to making the playoffs since then was in 2022 when they went 7-10 and the Bucs won the NFC South with an 8-9 record. Incidentally, they finished in last place in the NFC South that year, so kind of a weird year. And actually, since the playoffs and the regular season was expanded back in 2020, the Falcons have only finished with less than 7 wins one time, which was in 2020 when they went 4-12. And this year is the only year they had more than 7 wins when they had 8. So apparently if you fire Arthur Smith, hire Raheem Morris, bring in Kirk Cousins, Michael Penix, Jesse Bates, all the things they brought in on defense, that all equals to just 1 win. I'm worth at least 2 wins, so make sure that you like and subscribe. And I'm almost monetized, so keep watching because I need those watch hours. And really, they would have made it this year if it wasn't for 2 straight OT losses to end the season after benching Kirk Cousins and paying him $100 million. And let me tell you, he gets that $100 million guaranteed no matter what the Falcons do. So the Falcons lose twice in that scenario. And one of those OT losses was actually to the next team that we have on the list here. Carolina also last made the playoffs in 2017, and that was the last time that the Panthers were over 500. And they lost to the Saints in the wildcard round, so they didn't even get a playoff win the last time they were in the playoffs. And the closest they've come since then was also 2022 when they had Sam Darnold under center. That year, they fired Matt Rule after going 1-4 to start the season. Steve Wilks, the interim head coach, went 500 over the last 12 games, 6-6, and led the Panthers to the second place finish in the AFC South that same year that Atlanta went 7-9 and finished 4th. Unlike the Falcons, that's the only time that Carolina's had more than 5 wins since 2019. Maybe one of these teams can pull it all together and win the NFC South next season since it's always up for grabs. If you think that those 2 7-year playoff droughts are bad, wait until you hear about the Jets. It's been 14 years since they last made the playoffs.
Oh my God!
It's dating back to 2010 when they snuck in as the 6th and final team, this is before the Super Wildcard, and ended up making a run to the AFC Championship game where they lost to Pittsburgh. That's not only the longest active playoff drought in the NFL, it's the longest active playoff drought of any top American sports league. The Buffalo Sabres, who are currently at 13 and have been going also since 2010, have a chance to tie it up with the Jets this upcoming NHL season. So if you are a fan of New York sports, it just sucks for you. If you're wondering, the closest that the Jets have got in that span was in 2015 when they went 10-6 but lost the wild card spot because of a tiebreaker with the Steelers. So in 14 years, they've had 1 season above 500 and 1 season at 500 and no playoff berths. What are you rooting for, Jets fans? Even with all that information, do you remember that for the last 2 years, there were many talking heads on TV, on YouTube, on the radio, wherever, that were picking the Jets to win the Super Bowl because they got a 40-year-old quarterback? Do you remember that? I want to make sure everybody remembers that. Number 2. Green Bay is the only 7 seed to win a playoff game in NFL history. So you might remember this. This happened last year, and it was Green Bay versus the Dallas Cowboys. Have you heard of them? This was one of the worst playoff performances of all time. Because although the final score was like 48-36, 48-32, a 16-point loss, not terrible. With 10 minutes to go, the score was 48-16. And I remember walking by the gym at my apartment complex and they had it on the TV there, and I was just laughing. It was like 41-16 at the time. And to think, after that game, Jerry Jones thought the best thing to do was to give Dak a record-breaking contract, to give CD a damn near record-breaking contract. And what happened this year? Remind me, are they in the playoffs? Weirdly, the 6th seed, which used to be the last team in the playoffs, has been 4-4 since the expansion to the Super Wild Card back in 2020. And actually, the Niners made the NFC Championship game from the 6th seed in 2021. They were the 7th, 6th seed to make a conference title game, all of which came after the Steelers in 2005 when they did it for the first time. That includes the Jets that we talked about in 2010. And the playoffs expanded to 12 teams in 1990. So it took 15 years for a 6th seed to make it. They were expanded to 7 teams in 2020. So a 7th seed should be in a conference championship game no later than 2035. And actually, even before we expanded to the Super Wildcard, there were 2 6 seeds that actually won the Super Bowl. The first one was the 2005 Steelers, which you talked about. They won in a 4-game win streak to get into the playoffs at the end of the season, and then won another 4 games straight in the playoffs, ending with a 21-10 victory against the Seahawks in Super Bowl XL. And that was all in Ben Roethlisberger's 2nd season. And then in 2010, the Packers repeated the feat when they snuck into the playoffs and then ended up beating the Steelers in the Super Bowl 31-25. And that was in Aaron Rodgers' 3rd season as a starter. All this to say, there is hope for you Broncos and Packers fans out there. Number 3, 3 teams from the same division have made the playoffs in the same year every year of the Super Wild Card. In the 18 years between 2002, when the NFL expanded to 32 teams, and 2020, when the playoffs expanded, this only happened 7 times. In the 5 years since the playoffs expanded in 2020, this has now happened 6 times. In 2020, it was the AFC North with Pittsburgh, Baltimore, and Cleveland. 2021, it was the NFC West with the Rams, the Cardinals, and the Niners. In 2022, it was the NFC East with the Eagles, Dallas, and the Giants. In 2023, it was Baltimore, Cleveland, and Pittsburgh from the AFC North. And 2024, we have the AFC West with KC, Chargers, and Broncos, and the NFC North with Detroit, Minnesota, and Green Bay. And every division has had at least 2 teams make the playoffs at least once since the playoffs expanded in 2020. All right, so a lot of team names being thrown at you there. But the important thing about this year is it's only the 2nd time that 2 divisions have had 3 teams make the playoffs in the same year since the NFL expanded to 32 teams back in 2002. The other time that happened was 2007, when the Cowboys, Giants, and Redskins, and yes, they were the Redskins back then, I will honor that, from the NFC East, and the Colts, Jags, and Titans from the AFC South all made the playoffs. Now, since we have 3 wild cards, it is possible that a whole division could make the playoffs in the same year. And a lot of people thought that was going to be the NFC North this year. You know who the team that's missing? The Bears. That's right. Yet another team that people thought was going to be good because they got a rookie quarterback and they got a bunch of weapons. How many years is it going to take for people to realize that the offensive line is the most important part of especially a rookie quarterback season, but of any season? Like, you can have quarterback, you can have all these great weapons, but if you don't have time to get it out to them or you don't have anywhere to run the ball, you're gonna be shit. But back to the divisions. Only the NFC North, the AFC South, and the AFC East have not had a team make the Super Bowl in the Super Wildcard era. Only the AFC South and the AFC East have not had a team make the Super Bowl, as well as not having 3 teams in the playoffs in the same year. And only the AFC South have not even had a team make the conference championship game in the Super Wildcard era. To pile it on the AFC South even more, they've only won 2 playoff games as a division since 2020. The 2 games were the Jags' ridiculous comeback against the Chargers that were coached by fucking bag of bones Brandon Staley, and the Texans' win last year. Every other division has at least 4 wins in that time frame. But if it wasn't for Tom Brady, the NFC South would be in the same boat. So maybe the reason the SEC likes their college football so much is because their NFL teams suck dog dicks.
We're in the state of Mississippi.
Number 4, the AFC has not had a division winner with less than 10 wins in the Super Wildcard era. The NFC, on the other hand, has had 2 division winners that have had less than a 500 record in the Super Wildcard era. And this made me realize I made a mistake earlier. The playoffs expanded in 2020, but the regular season did not expand to 17 games until 2021. But I can't go back and fix it, so fuck it. Anyways, Washington in 2020 was 7-9 and almost upset Tom Brady and the eventual Super Bowl champion Bucs in the wildcard round. And then in 2022, Tampa returned the favor and went 8-9 and won the NFC South, but they also lost in the wild card round to the Cowboys in Tom Brady's final NFL game. In case you were wondering, there's been 4 teams, including Washington and Tampa, that have won their division with a losing record since 2002 when the Texans got added and the league got realigned to the 4-team divisions. The others were Seattle in 2010, who went 7-9 and beat the Saints in the Beastquake game in the wild card round, and then 2014 the Panthers went 7-8-1 and also won in the wild card round against the Cardinals. And yes, the NFL is stupid and allows those shitty teams to not only make the playoffs but get a home game against teams that probably had a winning record, probably had 10 plus wins. Guess they're just like the CFP. But if you notice, all of those teams came from the NFC. I don't know what it means, but it is an interesting stat. Number 5, the Chiefs have been in the AFC Championship every year of the Super Wildcard era. They've also only missed out on playing in the Super Bowl once when they lost to Cincinnati in the AFC Championship game in 2021. And last year was the only year that they didn't host the AFC Championship game, but they did go to Baltimore and beat the Ravens in M&T Bank Stadium to go to the Super Bowl. Cincinnati and San Francisco are the only other teams to have made multiple conference championship games since 2020. Cincinnati is 1-1 with both matchups against the Chiefs in Kansas City, decided by 3 points. And San Francisco is 1-2, losing 2 straight before knocking off Detroit by 3 points last year before going to the Super Bowl and losing to the Chiefs. Actually, Kansas City is currently on a 7-game win streak in the playoffs. And if they do end up pulling it out and winning the Super Bowl for the 3rd time this year, not only will they end up becoming the first team ever to win 3 straight Super Bowls, but they will tie the Patriots for the longest playoff winning streak of all time with 10 straight wins in the playoffs. So what do you think? I'm pulling for the Chargers, but I think the Chiefs are going to win it all. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and make sure you like and subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for watching that video. If you'd like to watch some more, I've got my most recent video right here, which is about the Ducks losing in the Rose Bowl, so it's kind of a tough watch. But up here, I've got my most popular video yet, over 12,000 views, about SEC and conference realignment. Other than that, if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe over here, and we'll catch you next time. See ya!